Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. As part of our continuing ATX Television Fest Season 13 coverage, join us for a captivating chat with casting director Susie Ferris as she reveals the secrets of casting and the challenges of finding the right talent. Whether the project is Mr. Robot or Wet Hot American Summer, the right actor makes the role, and Susie tells us about her process in finding those actors. Her career is amazing, and it thrills me to bring you this interview.
So I'm Les from the TV Dudes. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure, I'm Susie Ferris. I'm a casting director.
So I'm always interested in how people end up in their specific job in the industry. I think a lot of us when we're kids and we're watching TV or movies and we think, how do they make that? I want to be involved in that magic world. We don't necessarily think about scripting or assistant camera or assistant director. Like, these are vital jobs. Casting. I remember specifically the moment my mom realized that casting directors were a job. It was an interview with Vampire the movie.
Oh, wow.
She was so mad at Tom Cruise's casting, and then I was like, Mom, you know what? You read the credits? I didn't even know. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into your specific lane where you are, just please take the compliment, you were
Sure.
so good at your job.
Oh my gosh,
You
thank you
cast
so
so
much.
many of my favorite things where I feel like casting was part of the clinch of how the show worked, that I'm really happy to talk to you. Can
Thank
you talk
you
a bit
so
about
much.
how you got into your lane?
Sure. Well, I commend your mom because I didn't know that casting was a job for very, very, very long. And I was actually working on Wall Street in New York. I graduated from NYU with an accounting degree and realized pretty quickly that that wasn't what I actually wanted to do. And I started taking some acting classes at HB Studios and quickly realized that that was not for me either. I would be incredibly anxious. I was terrible, but I would look around the class and think these people are really talented. And of course, I feel like I'm an entrepreneur mixed with that creative energy. I'm like, what can I do with them? I wish I had projects for them. And I was living in New York, and all of a sudden that light bulb went off for me that, wow, this is actually a job. And so I went out and searched to see how I could get involved and got an internship, and the rest is history.
When you sit down to cast something, how does that process start for you? Do you always have the scripts? Sometimes is the show just a nebulous idea?
No. Well, everybody's probably very familiar with Jury Duty, which I did last year, but that was an anomaly. So I would say everything in my career apart from that, I'm basically handed a script and they have the characters and you know, the whole story obviously, and you know, this is what they're looking for. And so then of course, I'm working with the creatives on it and I want to fulfill their desires, but I also bring my own creative stamp and perspective to that. So I'm sort of the filter for them that, you know, I see it in this way, keeping in mind what they're looking for, and so we accomplish the goal together. Every once in a while, you know, I'll bring who they want, but then I'll say, you know what, there are a couple people who aren't exactly the way that you wrote it, but I think that they would give it a really interesting perspective. Let's try these people. I don't actually ask. I just try them, and I show them. And oftentimes it's the person who's doing something that is not expected, who is the person that allows them to see it through new eyes, and they say, "Wow, we never thought about it that way, but we love it."
That's great.
Yeah. Bless you.
So I know just auditioning for actors has changed.
Yeah.
Pandemic and
Yeah.
not just pandemic, the advent of technology. Self-tapes weren't something that everybody could do in the 80s.
Yeah.
You can't afford it. And now that's become so much more of a thing. Has that changed your job? Is it still headshots and you knowing the people that you've seen?
No.
Or do you get a lot of self-tape type stuff? Has that changed your job?
It's really, really changed the job. And I would say just as tech in any other way has changed things for, you know, the better and the worse. You know, kids have access to technology and devices. You know, it's amazing that we have this technology. You don't want your kid on a screen 24/7. I feel like there's that same there's that same dynamic in every other industry and in casting. So specifically, it allows for it to be a much bigger global search. There's access to talent everywhere where there wasn't years and years ago before the self-tape. You know, if I was in New York casting, someone couldn't audition if they were even in LA. It's just they're not here. And so now it's national, it's global. It definitely broadens everyone's horizons in a really great way. And the negative is that it makes it impersonal.
I already kind of think of your job as like, well, there's a million actors out there, and they're all pretty talented, and several of them can be perfect, and you've got to winnow it down to some manageable selection.
Yes.
And yeah, I can't imagine then taking that up several digits, basically, the number of people that you could be looking at.
It's gotten to insanity.
I saw for the first time a couple of months ago, I saw a pitch deck that had been partially AI assisted, so that the characters had headshots, which threw me because AI art is partly just collected that a little bit, and so like one of the actors was AI generated in the headshot, but it was Kerry Washington. Like
That's
it
crazy.
it had put together her.
Right.
And it started me thinking, has that happened yet? Do you feel that threat coming, or not even threat, just I don't want to term it an annoyance. I don't want to crap on tech entirely.
Yeah.
But that feels like an odd change. I don't know if that helps casting or hurts casting.
You know, it hasn't affected me personally thus far, and I choose sort of the way that I live my life is like I put on whatever blockers I need to or want to naturally, and just as somebody can write a description in a script that they see this character as, you know, a blonde with, you know, I don't know, crow's feet or whatever, I kind of write that out in my mind because that's how they wrote it. If it's not imperative for a character to be a blonde for some reason, and let's face it, we can all bleach our hair, do whatever. So I try to not take the physical cues unless it's, you know, absolutely mandatory for the storytelling. And I don't think I would respond favorably to seeing AI headshots of characters because that doesn't help me with who the actual three-dimensional person is.
I also think it would make it harder to then suggest people that aren't like, hey, just think about Ronnie from Mr. Robot. Like just think about this character for this, and like, well, I don't know, it doesn't look like Kerry Washington in that AI.
Yeah, I think if creators are just casting by headshots and that's all that they're interested in, then they don't need a casting director and they're not going to have a very good show, you know, and AI I don't think can get as deep with the intricacies of who a person actually is. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe these robot dogs, who knows, I don't know.
Have you had a moment where you were thrilled that, where you made a casting choice that you feel like moved the show into a better direction, where it maybe wasn't the description on the page and you went, no, trust me, this person's magic?
You know, I've had a lot of those. I don't know.
I would guess from several of your shows. I don't know how Wet Hot could have worked with other people. I don't know how Mr. Robot could have worked with other people.
I was just gonna. That's so funny that you just said those two because I think. Oh my gosh, I'm a little brain dead this morning, but definitely the casting in Wet Hot to me was magical, and looking for some of those characters was really difficult. Elizabeth Banks was supposed to play the role that Marguerite Moreau was playing, only because we couldn't find the Marguerite role, and Liz was great and we knew that, and then all of a sudden at the last minute Marguerite came in and then we could actually slide Liz back into the role that she was really meant to, with the barbecue sauce all over her face. Like, I can't imagine anyone else doing that. So, you know, that was a magical moment for me, and my first feature that I cast solo without being an associate. And then Carly Chaikin in Mr. Robot, who played Rami's sister,
Gosh, she's so good in that.
She's so amazing, and I loved her, and I had met her several years before and just remembered that she's really special, but she was sort of hard to cast. And when I told Sam that I was going to bring her in, that I was really excited because he had someone else in mind for that role. And I said, no, I have the girl. And he said, what do you mean she does sitcoms? She's like a Valley girl in, that sitcom that I'm not remembering the name of right now, and Suburgatory. And I was like, no, just wait. And she came in and she nailed it. And that to me was so much fun because obviously she's very talented and can do a lot of different things.
I do that when I watch movies. I think all of us that are a particular level of nerdy have a secret list of actors that we don't feel like work enough and are gems every time you see them.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I felt like that about William H. Macy, and of course he's everywhere now.
Of course, yeah.
The Shimmy for a long time.
Yeah.
Of course, they're finally vindicated. They got noticed. And I would assume that you would kind of collect those people. Do you find that happens where you meet an actor and you're like, I don't have anything for you right now, buddy, but...
Yes, I feel like in essence, that is my job, that I remember people, that my brain is just the storage, all the education that I had, it has been pushed out by actor names, but I have collected all of those people over the years, and then I get to slot them in when it's right, and when it's right, it's just magical, and it's so satisfying.
It's got to be fun to have an actor that you know, that you love, that you think is talented, and then watch them be indelibly that character. Like the Elizabeth Banks part, like no one else. That is that role. If you mention that scene, it's got to be her.
Exactly, it has to be her. That was why it was fun doing jury duty, because it was a blank canvas. I didn't have anything that. I wasn't slotting actors into roles. It was a blank canvas where they were kind of building this story. They had this story. They were building characters around the fun people that I brought to them.
Yeah, this weird blend of what that show was.
Yeah. And so that was fun for me. All these people who I've cast in really small roles before, so they weren't necessarily recognizable to the public. Then they got their moment to shine.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
You're so welcome.
TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.